Hello friends and subscribers, hope you're all doing well. Well, 8 years ago today we lost the legendary David Bowie. So, as promised, I'm going to do a ranking of his albums. Now, I'm not going to rank the whole catalogue, because he's got so many albums. He's got 27 albums. He's got a lot of albums. So I'm just going to rank a top 10 here. So yeah, just studio albums, no live albums, no soundtracks. So, ones like the Labyrinth soundtrack or whatever, just the studio albums. Just the studio albums. And before I start, as always, this ranking is just based on my personal preference. There's no right or wrong here. It's completely subjective. We all hear these albums differently, so if you want to give your ranking in the comments below, then please do. You can rank a top 10 if you want, or if you want to, you can rank the whole catalogue. It's entirely up to you. So without any further hesitation, let's start. So, coming in at number 10, great album. His last album, Black Star. So yeah, this was released 2016, just two days before he passed away. Can't believe this album's 8 years old already, and it's great. I don't normally say this about when an older artist makes new music, but this is just amazing. This is just completely original. It's unlike anything he's ever done before, and you can really feel his emotion on this album. When he recorded this album, I think he knew that he wasn't going to live much longer. He was very sick, but considering how sick he was, his performance on here is just amazing. You've only got 7 songs on here, but they're all good songs. The title track is excellent. 'Tis a Pity She Was a Whore. I think Lazarus is my favourite track on here. And yeah, the music video to that is, I can't even watch the music video. It's just too upsetting when he's lying on a hospital bed, blindfolded. Sue, or In a Season of Crime, which is actually a re-recording of a single that he did in 2014. Yeah, I slightly prefer the single version. The single version is more jazzy. It's got a saxophone on it. This one's more experimental. It's a lot faster and a bit heavier. A Girl Loves Me, great track. Dollar Days, and I Can't Give Everything Away. It's just such a great album for a great artist to go out on. But I do struggle to listen to it sometimes because of how, because it makes me sad. But it's definitely worthy of the top 10 for me. Now, number 9, I actually don't own a copy of this one, but I hope to get it real soon, because I want to have all of David Bowie's albums eventually, because he is my favourite solo artist. But yeah, number 9 is Young Americans, which came out in 1975. So this was his soul album. The Ziggy Stardust era was over, the glam rock period was over, and now it's the soul man era, and I think this is a really underrated David Bowie album. It's got great songs. It's got Fame, which features John Lennon on backing vocals. Brilliant track. We've got the title track's excellent. And I also really love his version of Across the Universe, the Beatles song. A lot of people like to put down his version, but I love it. Because it's not just a copy of the Beatles version. The Beatles version is more psychedelic. The Bowie version is more like soulful and funky. But yeah, I think he does a great version. Honestly, I don't get why people don't like this version, but yeah, I love it. So yeah, Young Americans, I think it's such an underrated Bowie album. So yeah, that's my number 9. Number 8, I also don't have this one. I actually own a copy of it on vinyl, but it's in my loft because I no longer have a working turntable. I'm not even a record collector, to be honest. They take up so much space and they're so expensive. It's tempting, but I just stick with my CDs. Anyway, I digress. Anyway, the album I'm talking about is Pin-Ups, released in 1973. So it's a covers album, but I think it's a great covers album. I honestly think this is another underrated gem in David Bowie's 70s catalogue. You know, he does covers of like Pink Floyd, The Who, The Kinks, The Pretty Things. You know, I really love his version of See Emily Play. You know, it stays faithful to the original, but it also has a glam rock feel to it as well. So, yeah, I love his version of See Emily Play. And he does The Who's I Can't Explain. I really like his version. I prefer The Who's version, but Bowie's version I really like. And Rosalind, which is a Pretty Things cover. So yeah, I really dig this album. So that's why it's my number 8. Number 7 for me is Heroes. This was released in 1977, and this is the second album in what's known as his Berlin trilogy. So the first album being Low, which also came out in 1977, and then the last one being Lodger in 1979. Even though I don't think Lodger was even recorded in Berlin. I know that Low and Heroes were recorded in Berlin, but yeah, it's his Berlin trilogy. And yeah, I think this is my favourite out of the Berlin trilogy. Of course, it has the title track, which is one of his most famous songs and possibly one of my favourites. Not the single version, not because the single version is edited. I'm talking about the version on this album. You know, the long version without any edits on it. That version is one of my favourite Bowie songs of all time. And you've got Beauty and the Beast is a great track. Joe the Lion. And the instrumentals on here are quite good as well. V2 Schneider I really like. It's a really good instrumental. But yeah, really good album. Yeah, such a great album. So that's number 7. Number 6. Man Who Sold the World. 1970s. This is his first 70s album. And this is quite a heavy album, to be honest. You know, it actually sounds like that. It sounds like Black Sabbath is playing the music. To me, anyway. But I'm not the only person who's saying this. Larry Graves, Canadian Stud Muffin. He also said that the music on here sounds like Black Sabbath, and I can see why. I kind of do agree with him. But it's a great album. You know, the title track I think is the only song on here that's well known. It was released as a single. It's brilliant. I love it. Yeah, and it's better than the Nirvana's cover. I mean, I don't mind Nirvana. I think they're decent, but I'm not a massive fan of Nirvana. But yeah, Bowie's version will always be superior as far as I'm concerned. And we've also got Width of a Circle, which is a great song. The Superman, Running Gun Blues, Black Country, She Shook Me Cold. Such an underrated Bowie album. And now we're into the top 5. Number 5 is Hunky Dory, classic album. Apparently this didn't do very well when it first came out in 1971, but of course now it's become a classic, and rightfully so. We've got Changes, excellent song, Oh You Pretty Thing, and Life on Mars, which it's his masterpiece. You know, it's his Bohemian Rhapsody. It's his Brown Eyed Girl. You know, the Van Morrison song. You know, it's his I Wanna Hold Your Hand. You know, the Beatles had I Wanna Hold Your Hand. Queen had Bohemian Rhapsody. This is, I think this was what made him more well known to the commercially, because of course this was his fourth album, but before this he wasn't really that well known yet. But yeah, it's fantastic. Queen Bitch is on here. That's a great song. Song for Bob Dylan. Probably one of the weaker songs on the album, but it's still pretty good. Andy Warhol. Yeah, apparently Andy Warhol actually visited Bowie in the studio when he'd written that song, and he actually played the song for Andy Warhol, and Andy Warhol apparently didn't like it. But yeah, Hunky Dory is just a great album. So it had to be in the top 5. And number 4 is Diamond Dogs. So this was released in 1974. And it's concept album. And it's the final album during, from the glam rock period of his career. Another one that I think is kind of underrated. It's got Rebel Rebel, which is one of his best known songs, and it's fantastic. But there's so many other gems on here. The title track is fantastic. Rock and Roll With Me, We Are the Dead. We Are the Dead, I think, is a brilliant song. 1984, Big Brother, Sweet Thing. Very strong album. Top 3. Station to Station. From 1976. Great album. And of course the front cover on there is a picture from the film Man Who Fell to Earth, which came out the same year as this album. Yeah, another album that I feel gets underrated. I know I'm saying that a lot, but some of these, to me, actually are kind of underrated. I mean, I love the title track is excellent. It's one of my favourite David Bowie songs. It's like 2 songs in one. Similar to like Bohemian Rhapsody, which had come out the year before this. Queen did Bohemian Rhapsody, of course. It's like multiple songs all in one. That's basically what this track is. And I actually prefer this. I actually would rather listen to this than listen to Queen's Bohemian Rhapsody. I love Queen. As I've said, I love Queen, but I've heard Bohemian Rhapsody so many times. I'd rather listen to this song. Golden Years, which I think apparently I think he wrote this for Elvis Presley. I think he wanted Elvis Presley to record it, but no. Elvis turned it down, and rightfully so. I respect Elvis and everything, but I'm not a big fan. I like some songs, but yeah. TVC 1-5, Stay, Wild is the Wind. Only 6 songs on here, but yeah, they're all good. So that's my number 3, Station to Station. Now, number 2 is The Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars. Considered by many to be his best work. And I can definitely see why, although it's obviously not my number one. Because, you know, my number one, I just like a bit more than this, but there's no denying this is a masterpiece. You know, we all know this album. Such an iconic cover as well. You know, it's on T-shirts. It's in like music magazines. It's iconic. So every song on here I think is great. 5 Years, Soul Love, Moon Age Daydream, Starman, It Ain't Easy, which a lot of people like to knock that song, but I love it. I don't see it as filler at all. I think it's a great track. Lady Stardust, Star, Hang On To Yourself, Ziggy Stardust, great song. Suffragette City and Rock and Roll Suicide, great closing track. So that is my number 2, Ziggy Stardust. And my number 1 is Aladdin Sane, released in 1973. You know, really good. It's such a great follow-up to the Ziggy Stardust, and I like this one just a bit better than Ziggy Stardust. You know, I think this one's kind of underrated because it's overshadowed by the success of the previous album. But I just love this. We've got Watch That Man, Driving Saturday, The Genie. When I first got into David Bowie, that was actually my favourite David Bowie song. And it's still one of my favourites, although there are other songs that I would class as my favourites now. Cracked Actor is a great song. Time, Panic in Detroit. And I really love his version of Let's Spend the Night Together, the Rolling Stones song. A lot of people like to put it down. Personally, I love it. So yeah, that is, as of today, this is my favourite David Bowie album, Aladdin Sane. So there you have it. Now, I know you're not all going to agree with this ranking. That's totally fine. You know, I know some of you are going to ask, where's Low? Where's Let's Dance? Or Scary Monsters and Super Creeps? Well, if I'd ranked all the albums, those albums wouldn't be too far down the list. They'd be somewhere just outside the top 10, definitely. And they are great albums. But my top 10 are my top 10. So yeah, but I hope you enjoyed that ranking, and give the video a thumbs up if you did. Subscribe for more content. Click the bell so you don't miss out on an upload, and thanks for watching, and I'll see you again in another video. Take care.